To talk about schools going back. In some cases, some school children have returned in our region. They're very much socially distanced classroom. We've got reception year 1 and year 6 allowed to return in England, but some went back the previous week. But Warrington schools have remained closed. There was a decision made at 2 p.m. yesterday, and it was much to the frustration of Warrington South MP Andy Carter, who's here now to explain why he felt strongly about it. Do you think that the children should have returned today?
Hello, Louise. Good afternoon.
Hello.
I think my real frustration is that a decision was made yesterday afternoon, as you said, at 2 o'clock by councillors, based on no additional information than they had a week earlier. And I think to give parents and children less than 24 hours notice that the schools aren't going to reopen is a really, really disappointing step. I think we should recognise that head teachers and school staff have been in classrooms for the last few weeks preparing for children to come back. And I know, having spoken to a lot of head teachers today, they were bitterly disappointed that that decision was made yesterday afternoon. They believe that they could have welcomed back children safely into their school and started the process of helping children to get back to used to being at school because they've really not been there for such a long time.
And what does that mean for the schools in Warrington? So was the decision, does that mean that's it until summer, or is it going to be looked into a little bit further?
No, I understand councillors are meeting again Wednesday, and their intention is to reopen on the 15th, so a week today. And I think, it's a real shame because parents have got to plan their lives as well. A lot of parents very, very keen to get back to work. I've had emails streaming into my inbox over the last 24 hours, really, really frustrated parents who have suddenly found that the plans that they were expecting to put into operation this week for childcare, for returning to work, have had to change again. And my message really to councillors in Warrington is that they really need to think ahead and plan ahead and recognise that there's a lot more than just looking at the regional R data, one set of regional R data. There's a lot more information that's available out there, and they can make a decision rather than leaving it to 24 hours beforehand.
You asked the Health Secretary a question. What was the question and what was the response to Matt Hancock?
I've been in the chamber this afternoon to raise the point around regional data, and I recognise it is very difficult for councillors and for local leaders to work on local data, but it's not just regional R data that we need to look at. And I asked the Secretary of State if there were other factors that local leaders could look at, and he was very clear. Yes, there are lots of other local factors. It's important that in smaller areas we're looking at hospital admissions, we're looking at ICU admissions, we're looking at the rate of spread of infection. All of that information is available from the local health authorities, and that's why it's important that not just one set of regional data is considered, but the wider picture, because that gives a much more accurate reflection of what's going on in the local area.
I think some parents are thinking, with only 5 or 6 weeks left until the summer holidays, whether it's worth going in. So there's two sides to this argument.
I think it's a perfectly reasonable question to ask, but I would suggest maybe 3 or 4 months of no school for their children and a further 2 or 3 months on top. But 6 months without schooling for any child is not a good thing, and particularly for younger children in the reception and year 1. This is the time when the development of the brain and the development in school is so critical for children's future development that it really, really is important that they get back into school and they get some benefit from the learning opportunity that teachers will give to them. And I know so many parents right across the Greater Manchester area have been working so hard with their children with homeschooling, but it's really critical that social development and that educational opportunity is given to young children now so that they will benefit going forward. So I do understand why parents might think that, but all the educational science says actually these are really, really important times for children, and getting them back into the classroom is really crucial.
This is a complicated issue because lots of parents feel trapped in the middle. Some people need to work, they need their children to go back to school. Some children are suffering and need to go back to school. Other people would prefer to be away. They feel nervous, they feel upset. So each parents have almost been there've been moments on social media where people have said, oh, why are you sending your child in, or why are you not? So there's strong opinions on both sides about this.
Yes, there are, and that's why the government have said that no child will be forced to go back to school. No parents are required to send their children back to school. If you as a parent feel that it's not right for your circumstances to send your child back to school, you don't have to do that. But for the children of parents that want to get them back to school, I'm afraid the decision that was taken in Warrington over the weekend was in my view, a very disappointing decision, and it's meant that those children that could have gone back to school today were not allowed to do that.
Thank you very much to Andy Carter, who is the Warrington South MP. Wanted to talk about the Warrington Schools' decision at 2 p.m. yesterday to remain closed.